Hi everyone, Cody here with Elevate My Brand, and today I want to talk about how to connect with consumers and audiences on Twitter. Now, I'll be the first to admit that Twitter is pretty difficult sometimes in order to connect with people because, as a brand, you have to dedicate a lot of time and attention to it, and a lot of brands don't really have that luxury because Twitter is constantly updating and it's so rooted in timeliness that if you tweet something and people don't see it in 10 minutes, then people might not ever see it. So, it is important that you have a strategy for it and that you keep up with it. But if you do, it can potentially yield incredible results in terms of expanding and connecting with your audience. In that line of thinking, Twitter recently published what they called the Connect Playbook, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a guide for how brands can better connect with audiences on Twitter. It is long, so I read it all so that you don't have to. And here are the 3 top tips for how to connect with people in your Twitter feed content. Number 1 is through events. So these are things that are happening in the world, maybe one-off things. Typically they're hosted or associated with some other brand or entity like Burning Man or the presidential inauguration. But if you engage those events and talk about those events on Twitter, then you're going to start showing up in the feed of people who are looking about these things. 70% of Twitter users have said that Twitter is the #1 platform for engaging in culturally relevant events and commentary. So if you have relevant things to say about current events, make sure you do that. But the caveat is make sure you do your research on the ins and outs of the event before you do. Because if you just start tweeting about it willy-nilly, you may not know that actually something terrible just happened there. Or maybe people are talking about this event because they're talking about how much they don't want to go anymore because something bad happened. So if you tweet something very positive about it, it could have the negative effect and have a detrimental effect on your brand. So make sure you do your due diligence in terms of researching that event. Number 2 is occasions. So as opposed to events, which are typically hosted by some other entity, occasions are things that are universal, like summer or Halloween, like any other sort of holiday. So if you tweet about occasions, that allows you to connect with things that are sometimes associated with buying seasons, right? So maybe people are talking about Christmas because they're talking about gift giving or whatever, and it's not associated with an event. So it allows you to really have your own type of perspective and ownership over that occasion. Again, make sure you're thinking through that occasion and whether or not you should be tweeting about it before you get yourself in hot water. And then the last one is trends. So as we all know, on Twitter, people might be talking about events or occasions, but what's trending could also just be that some random person made a joke and now everyone is making that same joke format and it's just become a trend and it's going viral. So you could do that too. Or it could just be that some person just wanted to start talking about Keanu Reeves again and now the guy's trending for no other reason other than he's great. So trends is huge, but again, make sure you do your due diligence, say that 3 times fast, to make sure that it is something that it's actually associated with your brand and you have something relevant to say. Because if it's not a topic that's aligned with your values or your product or your service or your team, and you start tweeting about it, it's going to seem pretty self-serving and inauthentic. So make sure that whether you're tweeting about events, occasions, or trends, that they are relevant to your business, you have something to say, and that way you will show up in the feed and you will engage with new audiences and your current audience on Twitter.